Great. Welcome back to the Perfect Match Franchise Podcast with me, Dylan, and Steve. Today we're going to do a brand highlight on one of our favorite brands, which is That One Painter. Is the name of the brand we're going to be diving in deep today. It's under the umbrella of Resi Brands, which kind of to give everyone an overview, That One Painter, which is spelled that and then the number one, like the numerical one. Painter was started by Stephen Montgomery. 2011 is when he founded it. Pretty cool story. So, and I have talked to Steve, and I know his mom as well. She was a realtor, Stephen's mom, in Austin, Texas. They had just moved there from Oregon, I believe. And, he was a college student and just kind of needed some money on the side while he was home for the summer, and he started painting houses for Steve's mom's, Kimber's clients, and then also in her office, her other real estate agent friends and colleagues, their clients' houses. So he started painting houses, got busy, was doing that in the summers, and then got so busy one summer, he told his parents, hey, I think I need to go full-time into this, and dropped out and, went full-time and, grew it to the point from 2011 that he was able to franchise in 2021, which is pretty awesome to go from, pure rags to riches, right? Like just starting, it was just Steve doing all the work, and then he was, able to grow it to the point that he could franchise it.
Yeah, and these types of stories are my personal favorite, unbiasedly, because we kind of did that. But in general, it's like the true entrepreneurial story.
And his name's Steve, so yeah.
Yeah, I know. Cool. What a great name. And he spells it the right way. He does it with a V.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just great stories, not only for the sake of telling them, but also you get the true entrepreneurial experience.
Yes.
Not knocking anybody that starts any other way, but starting with just you doing the service and learning business while also learning the skill. Yeah, like not only are you learning how to paint, you're learning how to grow a business, and you're learning customer service, and you're just figuring everything out kind of all at once, and that's such a pure way of learning business. Specifically, if you don't know where you want it to go, and that's kind of how the story went for Steve. He didn't start That One Painter because he wanted to dominate the painting industry. He was going to college, and it was literally just a summertime gig to make some money.
Right. And
that's kind of how he realized as he was doing it and growing it, I really love this, and I want to develop this more than just a summer gig.
Yeah.
It's just a very pure entrepreneurial story. It's a great one to hear, but from a business perspective, you also have raw experience that's sculpted the entirety of the business.
Right. Yeah. You don't need to have been in war to be a great general on the ground, but it sure helps. Know what it's like to get shots fired at you, know. Yes. And I'm not a veteran, so I'm not saying that, but I will say, being an entrepreneur and having been, similar to Steve in the sense that we did our own service as well. I can, understand that there's some great value that he's able to provide to everyone in his organization, because no one can say, oh, you don't know what it's like. No, he does.
Yes, I do.
He did it, which is super sweet. So just diving into the model a little bit. So That One Painter, as the name suggests, does painting.
Yes.
They do a few other services as well, but primarily it's mostly residential painting services.
Yeah, and generic painting, like, you want to get your kitchen painted, you want to get your exterior painted. So not, painting murals, but just, traditional painting for your home.
Yep. Yeah, and I think they do all levels packages, just looking on there, but I do know they focus on trying to get more of that upper middle class to luxury client who's really looking for a larger scale project, where their professionalism, because they're a very well buttoned up professional, systemized franchise. It's different than, if you were to just hire some people down the street. Nothing wrong with that for certain jobs, but the jobs that they're looking to get, in their business is mostly that higher level, larger ticket item where, people really care about, not only the price, but also the quality of service that they're able to provide.
Yeah, and in some of the promotional videos that I've watched of his, he makes a emphasis on having the highest quality paint. So it's not going to be a cheap service.
Yeah.
but it's going to be a damn good one.
Yeah, and you'll see that too, and we'll get into more on how he does that on the system level, but they really separate themselves with training, and they don't just say, oh, here's a paintbrush, kid, like, go out. I mean, it is extensive, all the aspects that they train kind of everybody involved in the system and what they provide to make sure they do a great job. Which is really cool. So just kind of getting into the management. Steve is still the president CEO. He still runs the day-to-day, has a full management team. They're very upbeat, youthful. It's all, I don't know if they're all his friends, but they certainly seem like they're very close. Like it's really,
They have a good team atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. The culture really is very, it's kind of almost feels like a professional family run business. And in some sense it is. His mom and dad actually do the
Work
franchise
for it,
development. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you are interested in that one painter, you're going to get a chance to talk to Steve's mom and dad and Steve at some point if you do become a franchisee in the system. And that's super cool. Not only to have that person, like we said in the story at the beginning, but then to know he's brought in this big team that obviously buys into not only the business, but Steve.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to note, it's when you're working with that one painter or Resi brands in general, you're not going to have a corporate feel. And I don't mean that in the sense that it's not organized.
Yeah.
I mean that in the sense of the temperature in the room is not going to be stuffy and corporatized with a bunch of suits.
Right.
And that's important to know, depending on how you are, if you were interested in this brand,
Yes.
that you're not walking into the black and white, sign on the dotted line, and everything that else goes with that corporate feel. It's a lot more, like you said, that family business.
Yes, yeah, and it's very professional, but you'll get a vibe right from watching their videos, and it's very accurate of representing who they are. Yeah, it's not stuffy.
Yes.
You do not feel like you're watching something that was made by a third or fourth marketing intern that just did whatever was on the paper, right? I mean, clearly some thought went into Resi Creative, which is one of their brands, or one of their parts of Resi brands in general. Also, kind of to tie into kind of the management and support of the system, they do have multiple brands. So that one painter is under the Resi brands umbrella. They have Garage Up and Pink's Lighting Service, which are also up-and-coming businesses, but they are not to the scale that one painter is at right now.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we touched on this, but Resi Brands is the parent company or conglomerate that Steve owned and created. That's kind of how this whole thing took to fruition, and he's basically taking all the same experience and structure that he built that one painter on and applying it to different verticals, being the lighting and the garage door markets. So you're getting that experience built into those from the ground up. So just as much as I said, like, it's such a great entrepreneurial story starting in the weeds and the benefit of that is that you're able to then take that he's able to take that experience and apply it directly to a new business, but then supercharge the growth, because he doesn't have to have a learning curve. He can just he knows exactly what's going to work for that home service, and just add rocket fuel to that.
Yeah, and
business.
he keeps them all home service, so all the Resi brands, future customers and current customers, they're able to provide multiple services to them, right? So if you are,
that's the whole idea behind it.
Yeah, if you are a franchisee that gets in the system, as of that one painter or Garage Up or Pink's, you have the ability to add those, maybe in the future, obviously depending on available territory, but then you'd have the access to the same customer base to present and sell multiple options to, right? If you're a high-income earner, in a neighborhood that needs that quality painting, you probably need some sort of garage service as well. So,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Or you're more likely to. So they're going after the same customer with different services and providing that same level of service, which is really awesome, especially on the support side, because in his Resi Brands umbrella, he also has Resi Creative, is his in-house marketing company. So they do all the marketing, and you hear all the marketing a lot from home service, and a lot of them do a really great job. One thing that really stands out to me, being a home service company owner, that I love, they actually do everything. What I mean by that is not just run your PPC ads, and send them to their call center. They do all the way down to actually monitoring like your Angie's business account. So for people that don't know exactly what that is. There's a lot of third-party lead generators that, especially at the beginning, you may need to pay in to generate some jobs. And most franchisors are not going to touch that.
No.
They don't want to deal with it. It's a lot of work. It's just annoying, even if it's your own business.
Sure.
It can be annoying, and they take all that on with his their marketing side of Resi, which is sweet. It's really good if you're especially a franchisee that's new in the system, if you're a new business owner, even established one, so you can focus on the important stuff about operating the actual business.
For sure. And a lot of times you can separate out advertising and marketing, whereas advertising is your direct job acquisition, being Angie leads, PPC,
Sure.
everything else in that capacity. But then the marketing side of things is almost more like brand building. So, he gives you access to the in-house photographer and the videographer and all of that marketing, the digital marketing assets that you're going to need to create to have a successful business. He does all of that in-house. So it really is a full, complete marketing and advertising package with Resi Creative.
Yeah, and it takes all of 3 seconds looking at his LinkedIn or their YouTube pages, see that they are a content machine. I mean, they really practice what they preach. He's not just, the franchisees will handle the marketing. I mean, he's really out there, him personally, but then also the whole team, and just, driving that good content that people, potential consumers are looking at, you know what I mean, to choose a brand. So, and which is really awesome. Yeah. And they also have a full in-house call center that is they really do a good job of driving sales, not just answering, when an inbound call or inbound lead comes in. They really have a full follow-up ability. I've seen they have these days where they work as a team to do I forget what they call them, but sales days, and they'll have their in-house call center reps try to book as much as they can for a big time bonus.
Sure.
And they'll say, someone called their 5th time and booked a $50,000 painting job for a franchisee in Austin and
Sure.
or whatever. So they really do all the work they can on the franchisor side to drive that important piece of, making sure the franchisees' books are full, right? Making sure that they have, revenue coming in every single day and they're growing.
And that pillar is called Resi Connect, I believe.
Resi Connect. Yeah, I think that's what they call it. Again, this is all included if you become a That One Painter franchisee, which is awesome. And again, you're tapped into all these other brands as Resi brands grows. You're going to have first access to saying, hey, I'm already in the system. How can I add this? How can I leverage my already established business and relationship with you of Resi brands?
And just to circle back, like you had mentioned, when you go after the type of clientele for the painting service that they offer, it's a similar, if not the exact same demographic of person for the garage door and lighting. And to have that ability or flexibility as a franchisee to really dominate a local market in one of those services being painting, and then to basically not have to start a whole nother business, but more just tweak a couple things in your current systems to then add an entire pillar of service is an awesome addition to the business. Yeah.
And they also, they push a lot on not only the initial training, but he has a lot of ongoing training that they do where they have everything from their annual franchise convention, which is common in big franchise systems like this. But also they have regional days. He's got a lot of training videos where he's really, getting feedback from the franchisees. And again, back to that original story, Steve himself does the trainings. He makes the training video. So it's him saying, you need to do this, this, and this. He's run his business from when it was just him all the way up to, a multi-million-dollar location locally, and then now working with all the franchisees that he has in the system. And that's just an awesome benefit that you get for for being in the system.
Yep.
So one of the reasons why we love it, at least me in particular, is I do think they are kind of at that inflection point in the business cycle where they are on a trajectory of being one of the, if not the top franchise in their industry. I mean, Serpro Painters is a large established franchise, does a great job. But I think, Resi Brands, and particularly That One Painter, is kind of in that position where they're providing excess value for the cost and the available areas in their system. if that makes sense. They're really at that point where they just hit 100 units, which is a great number. They have a bunch of systems. They have a lot of support on the back end, but still a bunch of available territory, for what they're charging to actually, get a franchisee in. And I think it's awesome at this point, in this kind of like year to 2 year period where, not that it's not great to purchase after that, but you're really getting, an excess of value, for where they're at this point.
Yeah. And I mean, no matter how great and family oriented the business is right now, if they're growing, right?
Sure.
And it's not that you can't keep that feel forever, but as you grow, inevitably you're going to have to install pillars of, corporate bureaucracy just to be efficient, right? I mean, you only have 24 hours in a day. He can't possibly do the same that he's doing with the franchisees that are in the system now that he will be in a year or 2 or 3,
or 5 or whatever it is.
Where if they double in size in that time period, there's just not as many hours, or not enough hours in a day. So just agreeing to your point in terms of why we like them specifically right now, but even with a future vision, like growing to this point and keeping that aura in the building is indicative of probably what the future is going to hold, at least on a general structure, So cool. That's another thing in terms of where the company's going. You can have a general feel of how it's developing. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nobody knows what the world's going to look like.
Exactly.
Really not even in 2 years, but certainly not in 5 to 10.
Sure.
And life happens and life changes, and so who knows exactly what that one painter's going to look like, not only in terms of growth, but even in terms of structure, which is, which is okay, and it changes. And for franchisees, when you get in, is important, because getting in at the right time, is almost more important than getting in the right brand, in my opinion.
100%.
But yeah, so, and I've asked Kimber directly, hey, what's Steve's plan with this? And, she told me, look, he's all in, passionate about growing Resi brands right now, which is great to hear, and so that's awesome for anybody getting in the system. But like you said, it doesn't mean that in 5 years it still won't be an awesome purchase. It just means that we know right now that it is.
Exactly.
Which is great.
That was my big point.
Yeah,
it's not, I'm not saying, don't bank on it, things changing.
Absolutely.
But you only know what's happening right now.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yep. And that's something to think about. And in particular, what we love, and we're seeing this kind of be a trend in a lot of different, particularly home service franchises, but they're really leveraging this new, like, truly absentee model that we've talked about. And by truly absentee, I mean genuinely the franchise owner is not only not responsible for the day-to-day, but they don't even have to live where they own. So they never even have to go on site where their trucks are out doing paintings. And that is huge, particularly for somebody who has the net worth to invest, and then also to invest that amount, but also sees the value in combining the economies of scale of purchasing a large territory, which I love, and I've sent a bunch their way of people that fit in this boat, because in all businesses there's a benefit of economies of scale, but in particular home services like this, there's a huge benefit, because you have that ability to kind of combine those resources into a centralized location. So for example, we're in Philadelphia. You can, while it's a very high population area, you can have one location that can service 6 million people in the greater Philly area, which is awesome. You know what I mean? You're only paying for, one manager, all the different aspects of expenses that you're able to reduce. And with all the system support that we've talked about with Resi brands, they're primed to actually allow for these investors to not only get in, but to thrive right from the beginning.
Yep.
Which is awesome. And I love that for especially home service brands. I think it's a great model for somebody who, is looking to get into the business, but has no way of, actually having the time to be in the day-to-day or even managing it, kind of like 5 to 10 hours a week. We're talking about somebody who says, hey, I'm going to get a high-performing general/regional manager, and they're going to go execute on my behalf, which is awesome that they're doing that right now.
And they're almost incentivizing not being able to have any influence in
Correct.
The business, right?
Yeah.
Like they would not necessarily prefer, but the ability to be able to invest in a business that's, across the country. Obviously, they know that you're not going to be in the day-to-day, but that is a good thing, because that allows them the freedom to do what they've been
They know
doing.
what
They're
works.
really good
They
at
do.
doing this.
Yeah.
So as we talk to people who are looking to potentially buy a business or get into franchising, two of the biggest reservations they have is, I don't know how much time this is going to take of mine, starting a new business. Of course, that feeling is going to be, I have to do everything from the ground up.
Yeah.
Or two, I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah.
This takes both those variables
away.
out
Yep.
right away, and there's proof of concept with it already. So not only is there proof of concept in the model, there's proof of concept in the absentee model, which I think gives multiple layers of confidence when you're, investing your money into a system such as this.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, it's it's fun to hear us say it, but as people talk to Resi brands and they get a feel for the management and they see all the stuff that they do, and they do such a great job of documenting and marketing it, everyone that gets involved in thinking about the absentee model, even if they don't end up purchasing, goes, wow, they've got something going there.
Absolutely.
And that's why, like you said, it's a great opportunity for someone to kind of take those two big fears away and say, wow, look, this is somebody that's already doing it. We kind of really get to partner up where, yeah, I'm putting up the risk and capital, but I still, I feel very trustworthy I feel very trusting of all the stuff that they've done for the last, decade plus of building it up and creating it, which is, really also ties into, if you look at their item 19, mm-hmm. through FTD, which we just had pulled up, they report revenues of their corporate locations. I don't know if they're all corporate.
I don't know.
I do know it's a few in their Austin, Texas area, because they are relatively new. They don't have enough averages that would actually make any sense, right? Because if somebody's only been in for 3 months,
sure,
even there's only, it would be really of no consequence. But their established locations, the biggest one's doing almost $5 million, or definitely over $4 million. I think
definitely
I saw,
over 4.
and I think that was 21. So I'd be interested to see what 22 looks like.
And another one in their first year, I think, was doing over 700.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
whoa.
Yeah, good numbers.
One location doing,
good
wow.
In their first year.
Which is just to give everybody perspective. If you look at the investment level, even if you were to purchase 5 territories, you're probably still, I say only, but talking about $500,000 to $600,000 investment. So if we're saying one on a revenue basis has the potential to do 700,000, I mean, you can just do the math on what a large metropolitan area. Now, I'm not making any earnings claims or promises. Please make sure everyone understands that. But it's true that you can have this low investment in these home services, and if you can get a foothold and establish presence in the market, which, if you look at the support system, you're going to think they're going to have a ability to at least help you get there. There can be some serious income numbers for franchisee investors. I mean, this is something that, can be more than just, a good passive income stream. I mean, it can be your retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only just the returns, but the speed of which you can get up and running, which is true for many home services, especially compared to like restaurants.
Sure.
But just in addition to that, being able to get up relatively quickly is another benefit to the industry in general.
Yeah. And again, the ability for them to, not only get up and going quickly, but if you go with some of these more bigger markets or these kind of area developer models, you can scale up quickly because they know how to do it. They've already done it. They've gone into markets and grown quickly. So so their earnings claim really, while it doesn't show the system wide because it just too quote unquote new in terms of the franchisee totality, it gives you a really good picture of what a location can do. And that's huge. You know what I mean? If you're trying to not only see a return quickly, but see a good return in the long haul.
Yep.
So I mean that's really kind of a good overview of at least why we love the brand, why we like the people there, why we think it's one of the hot franchises right now in the market. And so I think if anybody's interested in learning more, definitely contact Steve or me or just Perfect Match Franchises in general, and we can tell you more, see if you're qualified. One thing I will say about any franchises, but it is always worth it to talk to someone like us as advisors, because we're also going to shoot you straight. I have talked to people that I don't think are a good fit for Resi, even though they could afford it.
Yep.
So, you do want to talk to somebody to make sure, culture-wise you match up, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
So
that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just matter of fact.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we're going to talk about a different absentee model I think is, a little different than Resi brands. And like you said, not in a good or bad way, but it just matches up differently to different people. So it just really kind of depends on on which way you fall, which is totally fine either way, but it's better to be matched up right than just because you hear, oh, they have a strong earnings claim and, clearly the CEO knows what he's doing. That's good, but if it doesn't match, you're not going to be as excited as you would be if you went with a different brand that makes more sense for you. So, if anyone, wants to hear more, give us a call, but that's it for now on that one, Painter and Resi brands, with certainly probably more to dive into moving forward here.
Absolutely. All right, guys, until next time.
Until next time.